Welcome into Coffee and Chel Tuesday, December 9th. I don't know why it is this week, but I legit just cannot remember what day it is. Don't know why, but it is Tuesday, December 9th. Today's episode, we're going to talk a little bit more about the theme team, but more so the way I'm playing Hut and why I think it is the perfect way to play Hockey Ultimate Team, regardless of how much you can play, what modes you play, all of that. But specifically for an online player, because I think that for someone like myself who's an online player, they're only playing offline, you always have to chase the best cards that come out to an extent, or you get that feeling because you want to give yourself an advantage. So it makes theme teams very difficult because you can't play. But we're gonna get into all of that. I want to talk about progression issues with icons and other things. We're gonna talk a little bit about gaming. Again, I like to talk a little bit about gaming later on. Halo Infinite being 4 and why that kind of hit me. Also, want to discuss the Warner Bros. Sale. I think that's kind of massive just in general. Then we'll get into your comments and all of that. So, chocked full of stuff today. Let's start. Okay. It's almost 2026. I won't be here next week, so I will have a few pre-record. I'm going to try and get at least 2 Coffee and Chel episodes that I can release, I can do on Friday night, that I can release throughout. That's going to be pretty tough to come up with 2 hours of things in a night, but I will try to have stuff on my YouTube channel. I leave Saturday morning. I'll be back Saturday night, and Saturday night I'm going to have, the new event video and all of that and try and catch up. I'm going to miss Chel Week, which is brutal because it's a World Junior one, which is kind of exciting. But next week I won't be around, for anyone that's going to wonder why. So I apologize with that. So that being said, it's almost 2026. It's almost new year, new me territory. And while I can't stand that, I do want to go over some things that I want to accomplish in 2026. I don't want to call them resolutions because I think that it's a great way if you're not motivated to kind of get motivated. However, motivation is like gas. Once it runs out, it doesn't carry you through. It just gets you moving. You need to develop systems, things like that. But something, every episode I want to talk about something that I either want to accomplish or want to start doing in 2026. And we'll start with number 1. All right. I want to get back to playing hockey. So my experience playing hockey, my family was not very wealthy when I was growing up. I live in Southern Ontario and couldn't afford playing hockey when I was a kid. By the time that my dad became pretty well off, no, I don't want to say well off. He middle class. Let's say middle class. I had a very good childhood. I have no complaints. So I was middle class. I was about 10 or 11. So I was kind of out of the hockey. You get that thing where it's like, oh, you didn't play growing up as a kid. Hockey's a very difficult sport to pick up. So it was like, okay, I didn't really have any interest in playing it. I loved watching it. I loved the video game. Didn't really have any interest in playing it because I loved baseball. So I played travel into high school and things like that. Played baseball my entire life. But I didn't get to playing hockey. My best friends, my best friend is still an unbelievable hockey player, and they would play just a beer league hour every Friday night. And when we were 18, and by the time I was 21, they finally forced me to just come out and play. And it was this hour where it was just guys in their 50s, their kids, friends, whatever. It was basically they just for 30 years they had this hour every Friday night at 10 p.m. And the amount of people that learned how to play hockey in it wasn't it was some hardcore playing, but I was able to. I've rollerbladed my entire life, played roller hockey. I've watched hockey my entire life. You'd be surprised if you can skate, even just skate, not stop or make cuts, back skate, all of that. If you've watched a ton of hockey and were obsessed with it, you'll pick it up pretty quickly in that sense. So I was able to kind of hold my own, and then I played for about 3 years of just every Friday and Monday night, and then COVID happened. So I haven't played hockey since. So this year I tried to. If you watch my streams, I tried to get into a really, really popular adult beginner league in my area, and it's been around for 40 years. Super well structured. And you even have to go to a try-in. So I said that I want to sign up for the summer season. And they had a try-in of about 40 people. Literally 40 people that are not in the league signed up for this, and it was all skill levels. So basically what happens is all the GMs that run the league and have teams, they basically scout. and they decide what level you're supposed to be in. The reason why this league is so good is they really protect the skill level. So you don't have guys that used to play junior B or whatever coming against guys that can barely skate. And I was pretty happy. There's 3 tiers, and they told me that by the end of it, I played and I did my hour. They told me that I could, I would probably struggle in the highest league because there were some guys that you could tell that had played their entire life, and the highest league is pretty good hockey. Again, not great, but it's guys that have played their entire life. And they said that I could probably hold my own, but I'd be on the very lower end of it. So they said I'd be good for the middle one, right? You had guys that could barely skate, right? And it's a great way to learn because hockey is so difficult, so difficult. It's not something like baseball, especially slow pitch, where you could show up in jeans and just swing a bat. And you get the concept of it, right? Hockey's something else. So this year, anyways, I signed up, and then it was full in the summertime, but I wasn't able to in the wintertime. I was like, I want to play in the wintertime. This winter. However, apparently I didn't register correctly. I missed out on signups because it's so popular. So if I don't get into this league again in the spring summer section, that's going to be important. So I want to make sure that I take care of that. So I'm excited for that. I'm going to make sure, even if I don't get into this league again, I'm just going to force my way into an hour. There's tons that I can go and get into, and I just need to kind of go and do it. So for anyone that not hockey, but guys, in 2026, if you don't play a sport, like I mentioned in the last episode, to schedule something with your buddies, just something, right? If you can make it an activity, it's just so much better for your life. Like I said, I play ball every summer, play slow pitch every summer. I play twice a week now, and I'm probably going to start playing provincials on weekends. And so maybe that's a little bit more, but even just one night out, if you can get that with your buddies, and it's like a league or something, so you pay into it, kind of a better excuse. So I want every one of my viewers that is not weekly going out and playing a sport to go find one. It doesn't have to be a team sport, even if you don't have homies. You could do boxing, something. Like, it doesn't matter. Just find something. I want all my viewers to check in and tell me what you're gonna do in 2026. Find a sport, find an activity, guys. I promise you, in your 30s, I thank the Lord that I was pretty active in my 20s and whatnot because of that. Because man, age catches up with you quick. All right, let's talk about Hut. Okay, so you guys know it's been well documented. My theme team. I've been diligently trying to get all the players, the best players of all the current roster players on the Sharks. And I don't know why, but the Sharks just have an unbelievable team when it comes to all the content they've received. Multiple Master Set players, Macklin Celebrini was the XP boss, all of that. There are some brutal ones, but nonetheless, I'm almost there. For the YouTube watchers, for anyone that's not, or for anyone just listening, I do apologize, but I'll give you guys the update here on YouTube, show you where I'm at. I'm getting really close. So it's very difficult to find tradable stuff when you really need it. The game offers a ton of untradeable stuff, but not tradable. So when you're trying to build a theme team, it's coins is key. And I told you guys that I'm doing it the legit way. So if I wanted to get, like I said, Colin Graff, I had to find an 86 overall or enough coins to buy an 86 so I could trade someone. I'm not just taking handouts. So I am 3 away. I've got Toffoli. I just need, the big one I need is Kurashev's team of the week. I finally have enough resources to trade someone Kurashev. So today I'll be doing that. And then Dickinson's next-gen item, same thing. I'm very close. And then just Nedeljkovic in that. Then there's some other players like Muhammad Doolin, for example, and Ty Delandria's base card at 76 overall. I'm using players that have played a regular season game this year. I've watched, and then trying to use the lines that are correct to try and give myself a little bit more immersion. So that is the update. It should be kicking off very shortly. And I think I am going to go ahead and upload the raw games of my Sharks season, like in quotes, where I just play through, and it'll be a nice way for you guys to get some more gameplay. I feel like that just doesn't happen. It's so much talking and covering Hut cards, but you just don't see a lot of gameplay. And the views might not be good on it, but I know a lot of people want me to show my stream or have VODs on my stream. I can't do that. I explained why yesterday, but I think this would be a nice alternative. So anyways, the perfect way to play Hut, okay? I have been excited about playing Hockey Ultimate Team, and why that's important, guys, is because I played for 5 weeks straight. My subathon, I literally played this game for 5 straight weeks. Now it's the launch of the game, which is why I do it at the very beginning. So it's all the interest is always going to be at its peak, right? Because I can when something's new and exciting, it's easy to do it. But like I killed my interest in it. That was just a downfall. Self-inflicted, by the way. Self-inflicted. But my interest in the game dies really hard when you play 5 weeks of the same video game. So when I find something that gets me excited for the game, I like to tell you guys because I think it carries some weight. If I can get excited about the game, then I think that a lot of other people can too. So I know I've talked about theme teams and playing with the cards that you want or that you watch in real life is the best way to play HUT. However, I don't practice what I preach because I'm an online only player. I do play a lot of offline now because I'm grinding out chores. I have no money spent. It's becoming almost impossible to avoid offline if you're an online only player because of the ranked rewards, right? You can't just play rivals, get a bunch of cards, and then you've got your collection. You can avoid offline. I got to do my moments. I got to do my objectives. And unfortunately, that is frustrating if I want because I'm a no money spent player. I'm also now building a theme team, so I need to have a bunch of stuff. However, when it comes to like practicing what I preach as an online only player, I would love to be able to use my favorite cards, but if they don't give me a little bit of help when it comes to playing online, I'm so competitive that like I mentioned to you guys, I'm in the way that I get enjoyment from this game is beating other people online. It's probably because I played Versus for 15 years of this game, just grinding it relentlessly. That was how I had fun. And I know that there's other people out there like that. And when you want to, Eklund comes out. I'm a Sharks fan. Eklund's not a top tier MSP. So you like don't really want to make it because you don't want to impact your team and you want to get the best. You want to make Larkin, right? And I think that you have to balance that because I think that, especially for myself, I was like addicted to the carrot chase because I needed the best cards and all of that. And I think they've almost pushed you into this method. So I will be playing ranked and going up the ladder with my theme team. Okay. Because in the end, wins and losses in ranked, even if you move up a full other rank, you're getting like a pack of like an 82, an 83, and a bunch of 79s. Okay. So even if you use your top end team for ranked and you're able to get to one higher tier or a couple higher tiers, you're just getting a few cards. Okay. You're not getting some crazy rewards that you're missing out on. Okay. However, I also know that if you're someone that's competitive and you're playing online, that you need to have a team where you're confident that you're not being hindered, right? Which is why you play champs with your God squad. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play ranked with my theme team and have fun doing so because it's like in self-inflicted challenge. I'm not really missing out on rewards, and I'm getting rank done by using these cards. And there's technically objectives and packs you can earn with them with the collectibles, right? And then in champs, I'm going to use my God squad. And then so the next question is, how do you afford that? If you're a casual player, I play for a living. I understand. I play about 20 hours a week, right? Let's say. I mean, to be honest, it's far less than that because this technically, I'm an I'm a hockey ultimate team creator, but 2 hours of my morning is this. And then when I get online for my morning stream, it's usually when I take care of my chores. And then I play, maybe 4 rivals games or ranked games Monday to Friday. And then champs, right? So that is quite a bit, right? But there are people that play far more than me, which is crazy. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do my chores, my team of the week chores. I'm going to do my objectives. I'm going to log in to get my collectibles. I'm going to do the free stuff to get the free MSP every week. There is a path where they give you an MSP. It's never been easier, no money spent wise, to build a team because of that, okay? So I will take my free MSP, and then what I will do is anything I get tradable, I will just sell for coins. So that, and we've learned that is not the way to go if you want to have the best cards and the best team, okay? You want to hold everything tradable until they release something where that price spikes, and they will. Like 81s will have a giant jump in price because Team of the Year will come out and they'll be like, oh, actually it needs 21 overall or 81 overalls. You know what I mean? They go from 1,000 to 5,000 in a day, right? That's the best way to do it if you wanted to make as much coins as possible. But again, I want to have coins for when an 80 8 overall, Tyler Toffoli comes out. Okay. The cards that you can't make are the ones that are the most difficult for theme teams. This is why you need coins. So anything tradable, I'm going to sell. Okay, I'm gonna sell. And then I'm gonna make my free MSP. I'm gonna do the team of the week so that I can get the 86s, so that I don't have to spend coins and anything trying to make an MSP. Everything's for free in that aspect. And I think that's the formula. I think that is now a lot of people maybe aren't able to do that. Then what I would do is you got to make the decision. If you're an online only player, pick one. Pick something. Like either you want to go theme team or you want to go God Squad, and then be okay with that, right? Like be okay with that. But I'm really excited about this, and I think it's gonna work. And I think it'll keep my interest. Like I have an interest in completing my moments and getting all of my stuff done because I know that I need untradeable stuff eventually for when a Sharks MSP comes out, or you know what I mean? Like it does add up. So now there was a comment from Camel Taves 99, unbelievable, and I wanted to highlight this. Okay, I'm a bit of an oddball with how I approach Hut. Currently, I play champs and ranked because I get my enjoyment from beating people online, like-minded. Okay, when it comes to champs, I treat it like a traditional Stanley Cup playoff. I aim for 16 wins, not for the lackluster rewards, to make that my Stanley Cup because it takes that many wins to win the cup in real hockey. That's how I stay engaged each week, and it's quite the challenge. I also track my players' stats in 82 game segments, and if they don't perform to how I expect them, I will make changes. Bro, someone in my chat, this comment I love so much, but the reason why I found it, obviously I go through all your comments, but someone in my chat watched Coffee and Chel yesterday, came in and said, you got to see this comment. And that is the most fun because that's what I think I talk about this all the time, that in champs, I lose interest if I don't know my opponent. Again, no disrespect, right? I get mouthy. Sue me. I played Halo 2 when I was 14. I played Call of Duty all the way through. Yeah, sue me, man. I'm going to talk some trash when I'm playing somebody, okay? And I expect you guys to be as well. But here's what happens. In champs, if you are a 12 to 14 win player, that's what I am. In my sleep, I will end up there. And it doesn't matter. If my wingers are flipped, whatever, I will end up there. Okay? The problem is that there is 50-50 games where you don't feel like you should lose. Okay? You're controlling play, but it's overtime and you don't get a bounce and it goes in. The reason why those are a killer is because I know that I'm going to match up against someone far better than that player, and I'm not good enough to give away losses like that. So champs becomes super unserious once 2 or 3 of those happen. And it will happen every run. There will be a run where your guy shoots it off a shin pad, bounces up in the air, hits the Jumbotron, and it's a breakaway against. Or God forbid you try and pocheck again, defending a rush when you're staring at the guy barreling down on you, right? Like, those will happen. And when that happens, I know the result. Okay, I'm not getting 15 wins. I lose all interest, and it's essentially just getting my 20 games done to get my collectibles to see how many I end up with, right? And this specifically is interesting because the 16 wins is like, yeah, it's not 20. You get 20, but 16 wins, like that's your cup. So no matter who you're playing with, you got to win the round. Like, I love this. I think that's so sick. And what I'm going to do with my ranked team or my theme team is I'm going to try and play 82 games in a season. Now, right now, there's about 30 days left, or no, there's 38 days, 39 days left. The problem is that I go away for a week and then it's Christmas. But I could average 2 games a day for sure, because there'll be some days where I play like 4, right? And if I do that, then I can see if I can get to like 91 points or whatever and make the playoffs, right? And see where I end up in ranks of my theme team. And I do want to track. I'm not going to be playing any games with my cards. Unfortunately, with Macklin and Will Smith, I've done that. But like all my other shark cards, I'm not using in my lineup, my normal lineup, or offline. I'm going to use it just in ranked. So I love this. I think it's a great way to play Hut. And I'm really excited for, even if I don't get into it right now before I leave on Saturday, it'll be there when I come back, and I'm really excited. So I want to touch on progression issues, guys. So we've talked a lot about the cost of things, right? The cost of icons, right? The cost of whatever, the star of the month, all of that stuff. And then the lack of rewards, so we just don't have the stuff required to make these top end things, right? And it's not just that that's becoming an issue. So I saw a comment that was covering this, and it made me think about it, and it's 100% right. So I think the biggest issue with progression and the cost of things is that it's not linear. So what we mean by that is that game comes out, you make 86 overall icons. Pretty simple. Standard stuff. You've been playing Hut for years. We get it. Okay, you make 86 overall icons. Those are the best cards in the game. And then an 87 comes out. Okay, slightly better card. You take the 86 that you've got and 187 and then 85s or 84s, and you can make Eric Lindros, right? Or whoever you want to. Then the 89s come out. Again, makes sense. You got to trade in whatever to get the 89s. Makes sense. Okay, understood. Then the issue is they release 90s because they don't want progression to get out of hand, but they want excitement. They want you to feel like you got to spend money, and they don't require the 89s. Now, eventually, the 89s will be used. But for anyone just following progression and using their resources to get that 89, to get Gretzky and Bork or whatever, who are not great for the cost, you're now toast because you can't, all that stuff you spent, you now can't get into the best cards, where that was never the case before. And it's not random. Like, I used to think they were just doing random things for the sake of random things. This is a structure that is obviously designed to get you to wipe out your collection so that you feel the need to spend more money or immense amount of time in the game. Okay. And I want to make it clear that's always been the point of Hut. Always. The old content team, the new content team, it has always been about spending money. And the problem with getting you to spend your money is that it has to evolve. Because if it stays the same, you figure it out. Like, for 5 years, we saved everything for the fantasy event. Then we didn't have to spend real money on the fantasy event. And then we saved everything for Team of the Year. Didn't have to spend money on Team of the Year if you played all year. Same thing with Team of the Season. You know, after 5 years of not really moving the needle a lot, obviously they're going to change things up. And I always hated the saving for those 3 events. But again, it was figured out. This, you got to guess. You have to guess. Like, there is no... The Star of the Month came out, guys. And for the years that we had Star of the Month, you used the captain. Like the Mitch Marner, the Pedersen, the 85, or even the 86s. So like Larkin and Tage Thompson, because you use your low Team of the Week cards to make these captain cards. And then the captain Team of the Week cards went into the Star of the Month card. It kind of made sense. The progression made sense. It was linear. And then they come out with Star of the Month. It's like, actually, if you spent all of those 83 overalls to make 86s, you're SOL because those 86s don't make Star of the Month. You got to go and get the low resources again. Completely random. And again, they're using the ability of shock and unpredictability to just keep us on our toes, but again, to spend money and stuff, right? Like that's just it. And I'm not upset. I've said this a million times. Not upset by it. We have to expect that. It is a business. It is ridiculous. And this is why my entire channel is dedicated to helping you guys not spend money, right? Like I'm not shocked by any of this. It is only going to get worse. It will 100% only get worse, just like every other Ultimate Team game. Like I mentioned, Hut is just catching up to Madden, FIFA, and other Ultimate Team games. It always lagged behind in terms of the ways that it kind of gripped you for money, and now they're starting to learn how to do it. And like one of the examples of this, though, of like what we've lost, okay, and why non-linear was so helpful, and we didn't realize it at the time of how good we had it. So, for example, the 89 icons are a perfect example of them just like absolutely dicking us for as much stuff as possible, and then the 89s not being used for 90s. But remember, in NHL 23 or 24, memory is kind of mush, an event came out. When the event ended, you could still make the master set player item. Could you imagine how good this game would be if they came out with random line combos and you could go back and make an old MSP? Unbelievable. However, you could just wait, and you don't need to spend money during the event because you could just wait until that card was needed. Right? You see? Like that was an unbelievable thing that we had. Not only that, the ability to trade in old Master Set player items for a discount. Now, we kind of had that with Matthew Tkachuk, but only during the early access. So if you had early access, you got to take part in the Fresh Ice event. Cover athlete Tkachuk was one of them. And then Check My Game was the first event for worldwide release, and you could trade in Matthew Tkachuk for the new Matthew Tkachuk for a discount. But there was also Matthew Tkachuk from the Face-Off event. No discount there. I don't think there will be discounts. And before, in the old days, if we had a Connor McDavid Master Set player item, we could get a substantial discount when his Team of the Year came out. And that was predictable. But they don't do that stuff really anymore. And it's like, that's just because it doesn't promote you getting your money, like you spending your money, right? And that's a really big issue. It's again, not that you've got to trade in so many things to get the new stuff. It's that you don't know if that new stuff you earn is going to be able to be traded in the future. And then that completely changes the value, because you might not be able to trade it in. You will eventually. Like the 89s, you will eventually, but you got to be slighted. If you made Gretzky and Borg, you've got to feel slighted because they come out with 90 overalls and now they can't be used, right? I bet you there would be 80% of the people that made Gretzky or Bork would immediately trade those in for Bergeron. Maybe even 90% of people that did that. So really tough. Fantasy cards. So we're finally seeing the fantasy cards pop off. Something I've always said is that, again, they use analytics and a model to predict, to choose the starting overall for the cards they pick for the fantasy event. And the goal is to get to 99 by the end of the year, or get close, right? And every single year of the fantasy event, they have gotten within almost the exact same range. It's 11 to 13 out of about 32 to 40 fantasy cards. So about 25% will get to 99. And it looked like this year was going to be the first one where it's like, man, no one is scoring. Nobody. And now every night there's dude, James Van Riemsdyk is this year's Palmieri or Zucker. You know what I mean? Like, no one wanted him. To be honest, his card is still extremely mediocre. And probably what's tough is the salary cap. So, like, if you JVR's card, I guess, because he's actually he fits a lot of line combos. So you're laughing, but let's say you're not using the Detroit Red Wing line combos. His skating is really rough still for the cost of his card. He's gonna be an 89, I think, right? So it's not like it's all sunshine and rainbows. When he gets to 99, he's gonna be great, but he's got to get to 99, right? This is a repo situation where if he gets stuck at 98, his skating might be awful. But they're starting to finally come alive. And the thing that makes me sad is I don't see anyone on X tagging me. I don't see a lot of excitement in the community about fantasy cards. And I think it's because the cost was so high and all we got was our 2 random account bound ones, right? Like, if you saved everything, you could have made the one you wanted. But we took the 2 for free, just like we had last year. But I was wondering, why was it so much bigger last year? And I think it was because we got so much more stuff as rewards that while it was still very expensive to make a fantasy card last year, we had so much stuff that it was easier to make. The cost was roughly the same, but it was just, I don't know, it's difficult to explain. The other thing was there was a 600,000 coin pack, or 500,000, I think, coin pack in the store where you could get a random account bound item. Like, I did that. 500,000 coins for a fantasy item, a random one, was primo. I got rocked. I got Carlson. But still, like, you could, there was more avenues to get fantasy cards, and I think that this year, there's just none. Like, I stand by that error where they left the fantasy cards in packs after the event was on purpose, because this is tinfoil hat, but I don't think there was any fantasy cards that were like, I think the sets were done for specific ones, but there was so few tradable that they're like, man, we should probably put some more in the wild. And that's what I think happened. I think that was accidentally on purpose. Again, tinfoil hat, no confirmation. I could be completely wrong, but I just got a sense of that. That was a big error. They left in packs for a little too long that night. And if you took advantage of it, man, you got 2 million coins. So, but now we're starting to see some cards pop. Pro Rob obviously talked about. Morgan Riley scored last night. I think he's a 91 now. Barzal's up to an 88. Byram is on a tear after a really slow start. So we're starting to see some more cards score, and it's exciting, but I'm just not seeing any buzz. Not seeing any buzz, and That kind of stinks. But someone mentioned in my comments though, because I talked about the World Junior event. I have a feeling that we're not going to get given objectives and things to make fantasy collectibles. It's going to be like the PWHL drop for the World Junior fantasy cards, and that would be devastating, devastating because that was the perfect event, especially if they have the rights to Gavin McKenna and you know what I mean, like, and players that are in college that are going to be on Team USA, right? So they can actually pick someone good for Team USA, like Iserman or someone, right? And someone mentioned that it won't World Juniors won't be like the PWHL drop because that's it's an actual event, not just a drop. And I have to agree that there is a difference there. I'm curious though if we're getting a World Junior event, right? Because then there'd be matchup player items and the fantasy cards would just be additionally on top of that. If fantasy cards are the only cards for that event release, then I'm with you. They'll probably give us enough to make an account bound card, but it's going to be fun. I hope to God it's not like the PWHL where they gave us no objectives and you just had to burn your collection, which is borderline impossible. So I'm hoping that I'm really hoping that we see that. So all right, on to some gaming stuff. So I was on Twitter this morning, and I saw a tweet that Halo Infinite is 4 years old. And why I want to highlight this is obviously Halo, one of my favorite franchises. My tattoo sleeve will be finished. I have to finish up more like the inside stuff, but two of the bigger parts, like the last two big parts with all the other little stuff being filled in, will be Solid Snake on my forearm, Master Chief on the other side. So like that Halo, part of my childhood. I competed in MLG and Halo, and I'm not talking like, oh, I played competitively. No, like I literally went on the MLG circuit in 2008 with my three close friends. I back before Twitch was a thing, and competed, and our top finish was the round of 32 once, and that was it. I'd not Meadowlands, Toronto, and before getting absolutely demolished. But Halo 3 specifically was like is a moment in time where I think it's so popular, especially for people my age, born in the early 90s, was that, man, you were in high school and online multiplayer was slowly becoming a mainstream thing where everyone was getting into it. People like SOCOM back when if you played SOCOM or like Medal of Honor on PC, wasn't really consumer. Like very small portions of the people that owned a PlayStation 2 even had the online thing that went in the back to actually play SOCOM online, right? And so when Xbox 360 came out and Halo 2 and 3 came, no, Halo 2 was Xbox One. When multiplayer became a thing with the Xbox, it was streamlined, very simple. You just needed a network adapter for like $100, but it worked. Everything worked well. It was very seamless, right? And it just that changed gaming forever. But Halo 4 came out, and it was so much like Halo 3 that I was like, I'm gonna try this. And then I started playing every night with Nasher and Decosaurus and Tactics and Top Shelf Cookie and Clappy, and for like a month, it was like this amazing nostalgia. I've talked a lot about how, building my Manctuary, why it was so important to me because I got to get out of my room. And which sounds crazy because I have an unbelievable setup. If you wanted to play video games, this is the ultimate setup, right? But it's just work. And when you do this for a living, when you do your passion and you turn it into a job, no matter what you do, it will feel like a job to an extent, right? Like there'll be times where I didn't want to play video games. I don't. Anyways, Halo Infinite was one of the times where I broke free, didn't stream, and just played. And God, was it fun. And obviously it fumbled the bag so hard because it really could have been the savior of the Halo franchise in the sense of like reinvigorating its popularity. It needed a BR in a landscape where battle royales were so oversaturated. There was too many battle royales, but Halo would have been the perfect sandbox. And it's crazy because if Halo Infinite had dropped with a BR, which they had planned and then decided that it wasn't worth it, you would have had everyone over 30 that would have been their game. Warzone, they would have left Warzone. They would have left Fortnite. They would have left. God, if anyone's playing PUBG, all the power to you because PUBG was an incredible game. They would have gone to Halo because imagine, like, instead of finding a plane, you find a Banshee. You find a sniper rifle. You find like rockets. Like, it just, the world would have been so good. Like the Halo Infinite world would have been so good with the BR. It didn't launch. They only had like 6 maps, and the nostalgia wore off very quickly, and there just wasn't anything new. It was perfect. The maps were great. The gameplay was great. The gunplay was great. It hit on all the nostalgia factors of old Halo, and then it didn't innovate. It just was like, yeah, this is it. We're good. And it was like, man, tough. But it made me wonder, one of the best things about gaming, and something that no video game can replicate, is it just hammered home that no matter how good a game is, one that allows you to bring all your homies into it will always trump it. In my opinion, it's why Battlefield is taking over this generation's, or this year's, Call of Duty. Like, that is what, first of all, EA made an actual good game because they put all their resources into Battlefield. But the difference between Battlefield and Call of Duty is not that one developer put all their resources into it. It's a fundamentally different game. Battlefield, if you do not have buddies to play with, is not a very fun experience for a long portion of you playing because it's so objective driven. Whereas Call of Duty, if you don't have any of your buddies on, you can mindlessly get in because you're just mindlessly, shooting, dying, respawning, all of that stuff. Battlefield is way different. You could literally have no kills and lead the leaderboard because you're doing all the objective stuff, right? So, but the reason why I think Battlefield is doing so well is because it forces you to get some homies to play with. And the Halo Infinite just made me think about how, like, if you get a decent game that you have an enjoyment in, but you can get some regular friends to play with, God, there's no video game that can beat it. It is such a fun feeling. And I wish they would just make it even easier. But that's just the reality, because I feel like, you know, as you get older, you lose the ability to play video games with your friends. Someone gets a wife, someone gets a kid, someone gets a new job, they travel for work, all that stuff, it just goes away. And that's really the tragedy of online or playing video games, that a lot of the best video games, Destiny, for example, if you don't have friends, it makes it far more, or friends that play, it's far more difficult to play. But I was just thinking about that. It's just Halo 4 being 4 years old. When that first came out 4 years ago, I was playing so much, and it was just so fun. It made me feel like a teenager again. Before we get into the comments of today's video, I want to talk about something that is kind of making the news, and that's the Warner Brothers sale. So if anyone doesn't know, Warner Bros. is selling, and they own the rights to like Harry Potter and a bunch of other things. They're one of the biggest names in movies, one of the last things in Hollywood, the last big, gigantic movie studios in Hollywood. And recently, Netflix offered $27 a share, or $80 billion, to buy Warner Brothers, which immediately the reaction was, that's kind of the death of Hollywood in the traditional sense, and how it's been for, I don't know, 100 years, right? Because obviously you could see where this is going. Netflix buys Warner Brothers, all of its studios. They have all of the studio space, even more of it, to create more TV shows and movies. However, they know that the model of releasing it to a theater is a dying art and a very, very low profit margin way to do it, right? Netflix was the king and started streaming online in a very easy package. And, obviously buying Warner Brothers and all the intellectual properties that come with it, they can now go on Netflix. Netflix now is kind of the king of streaming again, which I think they needed to do because I think they were falling behind a little bit. They had such a head start. And it looked like, it was like, man, you're just letting everyone catch up. And this now, kind of reiterates. They also bought HBO Max, which is kind of big too. But the bigger part here, I got into the nitty gritty of it for anyone that hasn't, been following it. So first is they offer $80 billion by Warner Brothers. Okay. However, Paramount comes in, one of the other gigantic movie studios still there, and they said, nah, we'll pay you $110 billion. Now, the interesting part there is the politics behind it. I don't want to get into the politics. Just want to explain. Obviously, there's some, when in the United States, something called the SEC. It's a government body that basically, it's the SEC. I just looked it up. SEC meaning it is the Securities and Exchange Commission. So basically, anytime that there's like a gigantic sale or anything like that, you can get flagged by the SEC. So when a sale like this happens, it's under heavy scrutiny from the SEC. And the reason why they really try to police this stuff is because they don't want, especially when it comes to media outlets, it controlled by one entity, right? Like imagine one person or one company owns all of television or all of news or all of movies. They are now at free will to charge whatever they want, and they are basically policed by themselves, and there's nothing that anyone can do. So basically what happens is they try and make it where, you know, an even distribution, okay? Obviously Netflix buys Warner Brothers. That skews things heavily in Netflix's way because now the movie industry, the television industry, which is already impacted heavily by streaming, even more because now movie theaters, you'd have to think, gone. Like gone. However, so Paramount comes in and says they want to pay $110 million. However, there's some heavy political ties here that go into the weeds of it, you know, because of what all the things that Paramount owns. I believe they own CNN, and buying Warner Bros. Allows them to just even control even more things. And it's very interesting how this plays out because there is a Trump involvement. Don't want to say the dirty word, but again, leave politics out of this. I'm just talking about the ins and outs of this because I believe his son is one of the massive investors of this purchase. And it would just be very interesting because the owner of Paramount is close friends with the Trump administration. And you know, it appears that Warner Brothers does not want to sell to Paramount. However, because they're a publicly traded company and someone's offering $30 a share and you say, no, we'll take less, then there's a whole other government can of worms because then it's like, hey, someone's offering you this. You know what I mean? Like, it's very interesting to see how this plays out. But the whole reason I wanted to bring it up is because this has to be the final nail in the movie theater industry. I asked this on stream. How many times you guys gone to the movies in the last 5 years? And if you were to say movie theaters are gone, everyone would complain. Everyone over 30 would be like, man, no, I can't believe that. I can't believe they're ruining it. But it's like, yeah, but man, how many times you gone to the movies? It's far too expensive. It's having to leave your house when you could just do it in the comfort of your own home. All of that stuff. I've gone probably 5 times in the last 7 years, right? I could probably count on one hand. There's nothing like it. Nothing like going to see a new movie come out. You're excited about it. You know, you get your popcorn. God, movie theater popcorn, S tier snack. S tier. Like, there has been so many times where me and my wife have literally door dashed like movie theater popcorn. But I would just assume that if Netflix does this and they get it, like, I don't know how movie theater, I don't know, because they wouldn't, maybe they release it to theaters, but I don't know what the advantage would be because you watch all these movies because they come out on Netflix or they come out on a streaming service. You can watch it immediately. You don't gotta wait until, you know what I mean? Like, so very interesting to see how this plays out. Again, the political ties to this makes it crazy. 2 billionaires just slinging it, you know, back and forth. Like, it'll be crazy to see how this plays out. Lastly, before we get into the comments, my little section on life and whatnot, because me and my wife we were out to dinner the other night and we were talking about you know, letting our son have candy every once in a while, or not candy but like chocolate, not candy, chocolate. And I've been very like careful with the things that we feed him, like chips or anything like that, because I struggle with eating, and I know that kids pick up on what you do when you don't pay attention. And I always snack at night. I always have popcorn when I go to bed. I always love Pringles. Like, chips are my vice. I would be in incredible shape and I would never have to fight my demons to stay in decent shape if I wasn't just a horrible relationship with snacks and food, right? When I get bored, I just fill it with food. It's brutal. And I don't want my son to go through that, right? That's a personality trait, right? And I started thinking that, but I also don't want my son to be the one that's never had McDonald's. You know, never had a Happy Meal. So he goes out with his friends and he gets a Happy Meal and, you know, he's like blown away, never gets to experience any of that stuff. So what I came up with was, I'd love to hear Dad's point of view on this. It's not always easy. Obviously, you know, there's times where you gotta eat some McDonald's or something because you have no time, things like that. But you can really avoid that. But what I came up with was ice cream. or McDonald's or whatever. Anything that you would deem bad that you don't want your kid having regularly. Essentially, if it's tied to an event. So if he can or we can remember why we went there. So example is we have a membership to the zoo in our area. So I would take my son to the zoo every Sunday, right? If we wanted to stop and get ice cream when we were at the zoo because we had a good day and we were at the zoo and it's a nice like thing, okay with that. A random Tuesday night when I open up the freezer, my son's like, ice cream. No, like, I'm not going to remember Tuesday night. That's where I kind of landed on. It got me thinking because again, I try to make these not just for the guys in their 30s that are dads. It got me thinking, God, I wish that was how I treated drinking in my 20s. I don't regret my life and my, the mistakes I made and all that stuff. Luckily enough, I was able to not make any devastating mistakes as I was growing up. But I would go out every weekend. And you don't realize while you're doing it, it's like, it's fun because it's what, I don't even know if people still do this in their early 20s or in college. If you go out every Friday night, it's normal, right? Because I just know that drinking doesn't happen very often anymore. It's far less than what we used to be. And I just now, like, I drink someone in my comments asked me, I don't know if they were being a dick or not, but it was like, you mentioned that you don't drink. Are you a recovering alcoholic? No, I just, when you get to 30 years old and you have a couple cocktails, the next morning, your hangover is so devastating that I can't even get out of bed. And when you have a kid or you are self-employed, you can't lose time. So the hangover, I ended up hating so much. I ended up hating my hangover more than I enjoyed the night out. That was where it got to. And now I have 2 drinks every Wednesday and Thursday or Wednesday night when I'm at baseball or I'm at cornhole. It's an event. I'm playing, you know what I mean? So like that's it. I don't really drink outside of that, right? And just because again, it's out of like I don't want to. There's nothing wrong with having a few beers. Absolutely not. I still do it, right? But I just will never hit that tipping point because I can't lose a day. Let me tell you, next week when I got no responsibilities and I'm with my wife on the beach, there will be a couple days where the night might be a little touch and go. You know what I'm saying? So, but I was thinking about this about how like letting your kid have some bad food and things like that, as long as it's tied to an event. And then it made me think that, like, God, if that was my philosophy when I was out drinking and just the amount of money I spent in my 20s. Again, I lived a lot. I lived a lot. So, I got to experience all that stuff going out with my buddies every weekend in college and things like that. But I feel like a lot of people do that and they don't realize that 5 years goes by and you've been spending $50 every Friday and Saturday night for, 7, 8 years. Not only that, you're just in a rough shape, right? Like, I think that would go a long way just to help people's health and whatnot. If you just, again, I think that people go too hard. It's like, okay, I'm never drinking again, or I'm done drinking, things like that. You can, but if you're not someone that can do it in moderation, like myself, just tie it to an event. And I think that would go a long way to help you, help me out. So I just thought that was interesting. But anyways, let's get into the questions and comments from yesterday's video. So Peter says, I'm so burnt out on this game that I just tune in to hear Sleeves talk about daily life / real hockey related to the game. The best videos I've seen in a while. Thank you, Sleeves. Don't stop doing this. Again, guys, it's not going to be universally loved. There's going to be some episodes where I'm talking out of my ass and it's just not stuff that's fun. I don't know if I could show here. This is my rundown, right? Like I spend a good solid 45 minutes to an hour in the morning now trying to come up with some topics. And I'm hoping that this evolves and it keeps going, but I don't want to forget where I came from and that it's about Hut, so I really appreciate these comments. I know not everyone agrees. A lot of you guys will tune out the second that I'm done talking about Hut, but I think that cultivating a community of like-minded people is like just such an awesome thing. So, so I talked with my Edge controller settings. So I have an Edge controller. I told everyone that if NHL is your main game, please go buy one. It's an absurd amount of money, but the fact that these will not break is worth the money. I showed you my controller graveyard. Those 6 controllers in my drawer right here, about 5 months worth of playing, and they all broke because PlayStation 5 controllers are made out of tinfoil. So, but I mentioned that I don't use the back paddles really. I think I have Y tied to this one so I can Michigan really easily every once in a while, but I don't use it, right? So I got a lot of comments about people that use the Edge controller and the best way to do it. So Sang says the best use of the paddles is speed burst, so clicking in the left stick, and protect puck. the protect puck one I think might actually be, so that's clicking in L3, which I actually think might be good. Removing those controls from the sticks allows you to use the stick so much easier and with more precision since you don't have to click down. You also don't have to replace them nearly as often. I love this. I think this. I'm gonna start looking into what my personal one would be, but the speed burst, I don't think because I do it so often. But the protect puck one, yeah, like protect puck might be one because it's hard to get. It's hard to click in the left stick, lean one way, and then hold your stick. Like it's hard just to always do that. But the next one, B-dubs, is a little tip with the edge controller that don't know what to do with their paddles. I programmed mine to line changes. This is what I think I'm going to start with. So defenseman is left, or is left paddle is D, right is forwards. This allows you to change the lines and control the puck a little bit easier. If you guys watch me play, how I change line, because I use total controls. I just started using it when it came out, and I can do everything that you can do on skill stick on total controls. I don't really care. I could still use skill stick. Doesn't matter. I deke and shoot and hit with the skill stick while using total controls. However, I don't use any of the face buttons for dekes either. How I change lines is because you've got to take your thumb off of your left stick, which is skating, which is something you can't do. I literally go like this in the middle of play. Like I'm literally behind my net or whatever. I will literally do this when I'm going to change lines. So I think I'm going to try this. What B-Dub said first, because being able to do that with being able to hold the stick and skate is a massive advantage. It's like the last big advantage that skill stick has over total controls. There's Camel Taves with the post that we read earlier. Did you know that the Edge controller, if you played wired and activated USB mode in settings, you'll have faster response time, less lag? I brought this to everyone's attention in like NHL 22. So when the PlayStation 5 came out, I think the main year, I'm trying to think, I think it was 22, but by 23, everyone, a lot of the player base had the new gen consoles, even though they just kept making old gen games, right? A lot of them moved over, right? And something on PlayStation, when cross console became a thing, so it was 23. When cross console became a thing, there was a heavy discrepancy of what happened when PlayStation users played Xbox players. And it wasn't just in my head. I went and like looked, because me and Padre, we were still doing Coffee and Chel together, and he's a very competitive player. This is peak GWC, right? And he had both consoles, and he noticed it a ton. And we did some digging, and it turns out that the response time on a controller for PlayStation, it was something from a fighting game. It was like Tekken or something that we found on Reddit, where someone was able to test the response time of Xbox Series X controllers and PlayStation controllers. And they noticed that it's almost like 0.5 seconds, milliseconds. That sounds like nothing. But when you realize how many inputs are happening in Hockey Ultimate Team, that is a massive disadvantage on top of ping. So if someone has better ping than you, and it was a PlayStation player matching up against an Xbox player, you were at such a disadvantage that if you were like-minded in skill, you pretty much didn't have a shot. And it's gotten a little bit better, but what ended up happening was I started playing plugged in, because in this same article or Reddit post, it actually showed that when you plugged in USB, you received less latency and input lag, right? And then what ended up happening was in NHL 24, I tested a USB-C, because on a PlayStation 5, there's USB 3 or whatever it's called, and then USB-C ports on the front. And the controller cord that comes with your PlayStation 5 is the USB-C or USB 2.0 or whatever it's called into USB-C on the controller. So I tried a USB-C into USB-C, and I didn't notice really any input lag. And again, this is all in my head, and there's no test for it, but now that's the only way I play. If you play on wireless, even if you have X, first of all, unless you simply can't find a game, I would turn cross console off still. I don't really notice the disadvantage for Xbox and PlayStation really anymore, but it's more so just in my head. But again, if that's what makes you play better, sure. Right? Like if I go up against an Xbox player, I just assume I feel like I'm not going to play as good because there's input lag, even if there isn't. It's just mental. But plug in your controller on PlayStation if you only play PlayStation. right? Plug it in, get a USB-C to USB-C for your PS5. You don't have one already. You can get them for like $14 on Amazon. That is what I would recommend. On top of that, make sure you're in the settings for your on PlayStation, make sure that you have the controller only connected via USB-C. So if you unplug it, your controller actually disconnects, right? Because what'll end up happening is sometimes Bluetooth will override it, even if it's plugged in, and then you're still getting it. There's times, guys, I kid you not, I'll be playing objectives or I'm playing a game, and when I'm doing moments and objectives, I unplug it and I'm just like, it's free, it's whatever, because it's offline. I can do it in my sleep. There'll be times where I forget to plug it back in when I'm playing ranked. I'm like, man, why does player switching feel so delayed? And I look down, I'm like, oh, makes sense. So that is what I would 100% recommend. Even if you don't have an Edge controller, get a USB-C to USB-C cable, plug that in, only play online if you're with that plugged in. That is 100% the way to do it. It's definitely the way that you're gonna have to, and this is for all games, which is crazy. Spider Pig, one of the most liked comments is that cost to make icons is too expensive. Like I said, something to remember, guys, is that when they make these big overall jumps to 90 overall, it is the very first iteration. So when like Lindros came out, the cost was like an 86 and a bunch of other alumni, and it was so expensive, right? So expensive. But then it becomes a little bit easier. And I think that like in a month, the 90 overalls might be something a little bit easier to come by. But who knows? But I agree. Again, it's the lack of progression too, like the lack of linear progression that's also hurting it as well. But if you play the way that I was recommending, you won't ever feel the need. Like I said, when the carrot is too far out in front, you're like, wow, those are cool cards. Not for me. I don't care. You know what I mean? I would love Fanuff. I would love Bergeron. I'm going to just hold on to alumni and slowly build towards them. But it is not going to be, something that is absolutely must have. The last one is actually 16 likes, is the most liked on the video today. Sorry, you can't see it. It says, it's a disgrace the amount to make one of the icons. It makes people use cards of players that they really don't want to use on their team, but they have no choice because we're not able to make certain players. We all buy packs here and there, but this is a cash grab beyond. Like I said, yeah. That's HUT. That is MUT. That is FIFA. That is MLB. NHL has started to strangle the player base when it comes to monetization, and they haven't come up with a way. What'll happen, guys, if they don't come up with a way to give us more stuff, right? That carrot's too far in front, and the casual player base is gone. You'll start to see player base numbers dwindle. They haven't yet, because you would see an immediate reaction by the NHL or by EA. And by next year, I would expect that there's some structures in place that make it a little bit easier or a little bit more predictable. That's my thinking. But right now, yeah, NHL 26 is again the easiest game to be free to play, the hardest game to be play the way you want. That's kind of the way that I look at it. So that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Chel. Today we get some new content. Also, really, the format that I was talking about, the perfect way to play HUT, super excited for content days, because any Shark or Leaf or Red Wing, I guess that's all the same teams, Duck, God forbid the Minnesota Wild get a card. Any of those new cards that come out on like an 84 overall or an 86 overall, exciting. Makes content days so much more exciting, instead of just ignoring, because none of these cards are going to make my God Squad, right? So, again, just something to keep in mind. I will be live this afternoon. If you guys want to tune in, I'm hoping to start my theme team grind on ranked, but it's probably going to be tomorrow. I need rewards to get that final card, but stay tuned. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Have a good one.